Fast and Furious 9 debuts its official trailer. Harrison Ford is coming back for Indiana Jones 5. Hamilton is getting a film adaptation, sort of. And I give my final predictions for the 92nd Academy Awards. I'm Joe Acierno. This is Real Talk. Alright, so to start things off, I'm gonna start with the trailer for the ninth Fast and Furious film. I've heard people say, like, okay, they need to stop making them. I'm not gonna lie, I might be in that camp as well, but I won't accept any more than 10. Because I feel like now 9 is just a weird number to end off on. You know, it's an odd number, not a multiple of 5s, not a trilogy. It's just, it needs to stop at 10. Because I think, yes, there's got to be a point where people just stop being invested in these movies. So basically, this one seems to follow. Now, of course, Paul Walker's character is out of the picture for obviously tragic reasons. But now the series has, of course, been progressing without him. And this one in particular follows Dominic Toretto and company going out and fighting off Dominic's brother. It took us 9 movies for us to find out that Dominic Toretto has a brother. I feel like now, when it comes to the people making these movies, they're just pulling stuff out of their asses left and right. I feel like I just can't imagine what the pitch was for the pitch meeting was to make this film. It's like, oh, the writers were just like, oh, what's a new idea? What's the next thing we're gonna do? And one of them just says out of nowhere, did I ever tell you about Dominic Toretto's brother? And the others were like, no, you did not. So, you know what? That's probably they just ran with that, I guess. And it just seems like, he's just, they even say in the trailer, he's like all this, like, ruthless, like, like super soldier or something along those lines, like assassin and whatnot. Like, they've been fighting. Like they fought multiple times in this series already, and they're saying it's like this brand new thing. They're like, oh, this guy's a total badass, as if, that's ever happened in this series before. They've never had to fight anyone like that. So I feel like when it comes to just Dominic Toretto having his brother out of nowhere, it feels like this is like one of the like Impractical Jokers bits where like the Jokers have to do something, so they spin a wheel, they throw a dart, and whatever the dart lands on is the next crazy thing that they have to do. I feel like that's what they're doing with story ideas for the Fast and Furious franchise now. And here's the thing. I'm not even complaining. I can't even say, maybe it's a little bit of a rant, but I can't say I'm complaining or saying this negatively or like, bitching and moaning about this, because it's the Fast and Furious series. Everyone who's a diehard fan of this franchise has just come to expect it to be ridiculous. It owns up to it. This franchise knows exactly what it is. The franchise knows, like, just how crazy and unbelievable it is, and that's the reputation that it's developed. So that's why something like this coming out of nowhere, it's easy to take something like this seriously? Honestly, no, but again, this franchise isn't supposed to be taken so seriously. Yes, there's some kind of emotional weight and stakes, of course. Like, after 9 movies, you've come to really care about the characters to an extent. So, I can't say I have too much to be skeptical about as far as this. Like, I still think it's going to be fine. The action, of course, you could just see from the trailer alone, it looks ridiculous. There's like a magnet helicopter that just happens to take up one of the cars. There's like, some kind of like harpoon or grappling hook that one of the cars launches out and like swings off the magnet helicopter. I'm like, okay, just when you think they can't be any more ridiculous, they managed to top that somehow. Because I'm like, what? I don't believe this at all. But it's fine, because again, this is the Fast and Furious franchise. It's not supposed to be taken seriously at all. Again, like, it does look fun and funny, like, of course, most of the other movies are. I'm not, ironically enough, I say, like, most of the other, some of the other movies are. There are definitely a lot, or a few of the films in this franchise that I like much more than others. If I'm going to be honest, 7 is still my favorite. And 8, I think they could have stopped at 7. I didn't think they needed to make 8. But 8, honestly, I think 8 was much better than I thought it was going to be. But it still took me, I want to say, around 7 movies to really start caring about these people. But, this one is still, based on, like I said, based on what we're given, it still looks like it's going to be, a lot of fun. It's going to deliver on what people are expecting from these franchises, what these people what diehard fans walk into the theaters to see. Charlize Theron apparently is coming back. I'm gonna be honest, I don't even remember what exactly happened to her in the eighth movie, if I'm being real, but I remember her being really good. She was a great villain, so I'm happy about her coming back. Just a couple things I'm worried about. Han, out of nowhere, is coming back from the dead. I mean, last I checked, I think it was in Tokyo Drift, the third film, he literally exploded. So I'm curious how how they're gonna justify him coming back, especially with 6+ movies later. 6 movies later, like, oh, now he's okay. He decides to show up. I want to see just how they justify that. And I'm sure how they do that is going to be funny. Maybe not in the best way, but again, it's fine because it's a Fast and Furious franchise. It's okay for this particular franchise to be as ridiculous and unbelievable as it is because that's how it's selling itself. That's the reputation it's owned up to. Just other than that, John Cena as a villain, I feel like he could go either way. It seems like from what we've seen in the trailers that he's supposed to be like this very intense and driven guy. I'm not saying like this is gonna be like an Oscar caliber role or anything like that, where like he's gonna be crying left and right. But of course, he just seems like this very determined and fixated guy. And I wonder how John Cena is gonna do in that. He seems like he's gonna be fine in the trailer, but I feel like he's gonna go either way. He could either be really really good or just really really laughable in the wrong way. Like, there are a lot of things about the Fast and Furious franchise that maybe isn't, like I said, very laughable, but, like, it's fine, because, like, that's just what we've come to expect from it. Like, we've come to not take it seriously. I feel like this character you're supposed to take kind of seriously with how intense he is. I just hope that he doesn't come off as too cartoonish, even for the Fast and Furious franchise. But this film doesn't come out until May 22nd, so, I'm sure they'll be giving us more footage here and there, more trailers, and, ads until then. So, like, up until then, like, yeah, I'm probably going to see it. That's going to be a buddy movie for sure. I'm not going to see this one by myself. Okay, so continuing with the theme of franchises possibly outliving their expiration date, Harrison Ford, I just heard today that Harrison Ford is coming back for Indiana Jones 5. Still can't believe I'm saying Indiana Jones 5. Now, when it comes to the Indiana Jones franchise, this is a franchise that I've come to love, and I've definitely grown up with it a bit. Some of the movies are better than others. Of course, Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first film, is a masterpiece. It's iconic. It's legendary for all the right reasons. It's just an incredible white-knuckle adventure film. And that, I think, was one of those films that really brought Steven Spielberg as a director to my attention. So Raiders of the Lost Ark obviously can't be touched, can't be beaten. Temple of Doom, not gonna lie, that one has an Asia as well. I still think Short Round is aggravatingly annoying. I think that Willie, the love interest, has nothing on Marion from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Willie is just useless. Marion was at least cool. She was tough. She didn't annoy me anytime she walked onto the screen or even said something. Willie was just useless. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry at all. The Last Crusade. That one was also really good. Harrison Ford and Sean Connery played off so well with each other. Sean Connery, of course, was Indiana Jones' father, and even then, just the character dynamics between the two of them and all that they had going on, that worked really well. And even then, it still delivered on the things that you would expect from an Indiana Jones film. Of course, the music, the story, the action sequences, all of it definitely lived up to Raiders of the Lost Ark. And then, of course, over a decade later, almost 2 decades later, you have Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Now, I remember when I saw it when I was 11. The film came out when I was 11. And I liked it when I came out of it, but that's another one of those films where, like, the more I really think about it, the more I watch clips here and there, I'm like, yeah, this one doesn't really hold up as well. It didn't seem to... Looking back on it, as a lot of people seem to do, like, it doesn't seem to hold up or live up to the rest of the franchise. Again, like, I think it gets a little more crap than it deserves. But, like, to say that it's like, not as good as the other ones, or to feel like the odd man out in terms of, like, the rest of the franchise, yeah, I could see that. The Martian thing's a little weird. Shia LaBeouf swinging like a monkey is a little weird. That didn't translate too well, if I'm being honest. But now that we have the fifth one, I'm kind of curious about a few things. Number one, this one's not coming out until, I believe, 2021, which is... again, over a decade after the fourth one. When it comes to sequels being made over a decade after the previous film, whether it's like, in a long recurring franchise, or even it's just it was a standalone film. Now you have the sequel coming out a decade and a half later. Something like that always makes me wary, because it just makes me feel like, they're just pulling stuff out of nowhere. There just seems like they're running out of ideas, and I wonder, with this being 13 years after the fourth film, I don't know. I wonder how this is going to hold up. I wonder if Harrison Ford, who I believe now is in his 70s, is he going to be able to do something like this? How much are they really going to have him do? I'm sure his stunt people are going to be very, very busy in the production of this film. So I can't say I'm totally skeptical, but yeah, I'm kind of skeptical. I'm not going to lie. But again, it is an Indiana Jones film. Comparing it to the Fast and Furious franchise, I will always hold Indiana Jones in a more personal place than I ever will the Fast and Furious franchise. I've been Indiana Jones for Halloween for God knows how many years. I know I need to get a new costume, but I just like how I look at it. If I'm, but no, I think there's still a little bit that we need to find out about this in order to see, like, okay, how good is this really going to be? And again, Steven Spielberg, of course, like, helming the film. That's always good news. You can't really expect anyone other than Spielberg to helm any film in this franchise. Also, I remember reading as well that, like, there was a rumor saying that, like, people were scared that they were going to kill off Indiana Jones. They're going to kill off Harrison Ford. And I think it was Kathleen Kennedy basically saying, like, oh, no, we're not going to do that. Don't worry. And I'm thinking to myself, like, not for nothing. Can people just stop being wusses when it comes to, like, certain iconic characters, like, dying in a movie? Not for nothing. If there's no threat of a character dying or, like, losing or getting killed off or whatever, then there's no emotional stakes. I think, honestly, people just need to stop being babies when it comes to, like, their childhood heroes, their child film heroes, just, like, getting taken out on screen. Like, honestly, just grow up. That's not how, it's not how life works. You can't expect everyone that you love and care about to just make it through in the end. I feel like, I think when it comes to killing off certain characters, as long as it's done well, then, I think it's the braver move in terms of filmmaking and storytelling. I think it's the more unique way. I don't know if I did say unique, but it's the more satisfying way, at least to me, because, like, it's come to this character just completing their journey, their final journey. And, like, I look at a lot of people complaining about, like, Han Solo getting killed in the Star Wars new trilogy. They were bitching and moaning about that, and I'm like, why, though? Like, all these characters passing on, it's kind of like, them passing the torch. Like I said, it's completing their journey. I never have a problem when you have, like, certain characters just, like, dying in a movie. Like, I know maybe it sounds a little morbid. I'm not trying to be morbid when I say that, but no, it always just comes off as more fulfilling when people who make a film are brave enough to show something like that. And I can't believe I have to be saying brave, but, like, that's just how I feel. So as far as Indiana Jones 5, like, I'm sure it'll be fine. That's another, like I said, there are some skeptic parts of me that I'm like, this might just be ending off the franchise on a bad note. But again, I've been proven wrong with that before. Just look at Toy Story 4. Toy Story 4 was the sequel that no one knew that we wanted. And it still ended up adding something to the franchise, and it still stands tall with the rest of the franchise. So you know what? I have my reasons to be skeptical, but I have my reasons to be optimistic as well. As long as I do it the right way, they get the right people behind it, then who knows where it can actually go. Okay, so moving forward, Hamilton is being released into cinemas. It's getting a film adaptation. And I think it's more appropriate for me to say just getting released into cinemas, because it's not a film adaptation like you and I would originally think. It's not like, In the Heights that's coming out in a couple months, or Les Miserables. Basically, what they're doing with Hamilton is that they're bringing the original cast back, which I think is interesting, but they're bringing the original cast back, and they're just filming a live performance. As if they're just going to be performing on the stage in the theater, and they're just filming that. So, I mean, I was kind of thrown for a loop when I saw that at first, because, of course, Hamilton is this big cultural phenomenon. Everyone knows what it's about. But I think it's kind of interesting how they're going about this, but at the same time, I can't help but feel like I'm going to walk out of there feeling a little cheated. Again, like, I've never seen Hamilton. I've listened to some of the soundtracks. It's got a great soundtrack based on what I've heard, but I've never gotten around to seeing the actual production, with tickets being hundreds and possibly over $1,000 a piece. You can see why, but I think them actually building on that point with how expensive the tickets are, like I think them filming a live performance and bringing it to theaters where it'll hopefully be much cheaper than that. I think it'll be interesting for people that don't necessarily want to spend that much money on a Broadway show. I know I'm certainly in that boat. I know my younger sister has been dying to see Hamilton forever, but so maybe taking her to the theater just to see a live performance. Well, maybe that'll suffice. I don't know, but Disney, of course, is helming this. Bob Iger, the head of Disney, has been singing its praises left and right, and now it's the film, quote unquote, isn't being released until October 21st, 2021. I am a little curious as to why they need until 2021 to do something like this. We are currently just in the beginning of 2020. They're just filming a live performance on the stage and just putting it and just editing it together. I can't help but imagine what else is going into this that they're going to need until the end of 2021 to put all this together. Again, maybe there's something I'm missing. Again, based on what I've heard, based on what's been said so far, they're basically just going to be filming a live performance on the stage of Hamilton. So I feel like there's something missing there. I feel like there's something that we just don't know. There's a key element here that they're just going to pull out of nowhere, and we're going to be like, oh, okay, that's why we had to wait until 2021 to see a recording of a Broadway show. But again, I can't say I'm super pessimistic about it. But because again, I'll finally get to see Hamilton. But I don't know. We'll see what happens as far as that. Okay, so to finish the show off today, the 92nd Academy Awards are set to air on ABC this Sunday at I believe 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, I just want to give my final predictions before the show. Just a couple things that I want to get out of the way that are pretty obvious. Are there going to be a bunch of overly long, pretentious political speeches? Yes, we know that. I'm still kind of curious to see how things will go without a host for now the second year in a row. Is this going to become a tradition? I really don't know, but I'm just going to get right into the categories. Now, just a couple disclaimers. As with my my predictions for the nominations, there are a few categories that, again, I just know nothing about, don't really have much of an interest in following. This includes, documentary short, live action short, documentary feature. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I either just don't have the interest or just don't know enough to make any real predictions about it. So I'm just gonna get right into it. Best makeup nominees are Bombshell, Joker, Judy, 1917, and Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. I'm not really sure. For me, it's a toss up between Bombshell and Joker, but I'm just gonna end up going with Joker because I just feel like there's more momentum behind that movie. With they made the iconic look of the Joker on Joaquin Phoenix, so my money's just gonna be on Joker. That's my predicted winner. Costume design nominees are The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Woman, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm gonna predict The Irishman because I watched a behind the scenes look at the film and just what the costume department had to do. They had to apply these period. Excuse me. They had to design these period costumes for hundreds and hundreds of people because, of course, it's not again just the people that you're focused on the screen. It's all the extras as well. So they had to design a lot of very complex outfits for a lot of people. So I think that The Irishman deserves to be recognized in this particular category. So my predicted winner is going to be The Irishman. For production design, the nominees are The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. For me, I think I'm going to go with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood being my predicted winner. Because, again, the recreation of nostalgic Hollywood is just so well done. And I think that's something that the old-fashioned Academy members are going to eat up. So I'm going to predict Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for this one. For the sound categories, editing and mixing, I'm going to start with mixing. Nominees are Ad Astra, Ford v Ferrari, Joker, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. War movies, for me, it's a toss-up between Ford v Ferrari and 1917. I feel like war movies just tend to do better in sound categories, but I could see maybe Ford v Ferrari taking sound mixing, or 1917 taking editing, or just one taking both of them. Like I said, I feel like war movies just tend to do better here. So for sound mixing, I'm going to go with 1917. And for sound editing, the nominees are pretty similar. Nominees are Ford v Ferrari, Joker, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. My pick is, again, 1917. Best visual effects nominees are Avengers: Endgame, The Irishman, The Lion King, 1917, and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. There was a lot of great work in visual effects. There's a very strong set of nominees. The Irishman and The Lion King alone both had groundbreaking work, but for my predicted winner, I'm going to go with The Lion King because that's the thing that stands out the most about this movie, and I feel like when it comes to just the most, like I said, the most groundbreaking, I feel like watching these photorealistic animals, just how convincing they are, and just the entire world that they're put in, that I feel like is going to sell the most. And again, you have The Jungle Book, Jon Favreau's other Disney adaptation, winning in Best Visual Effects a couple years ago, so I feel like that's going to repeat here. So my predicted winner for Best Visual Effects is The Lion King. Film editing nominees are Ford v Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, and Parasite. I'm going to go with Parasite. Cinematography, The Irishman, Joker, The Lighthouse, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. A lot of great work in cinematography this year. Again, but the other nominees, to be honest, aren't relevant in comparison to what they did with 1917. Just the complicated motions that they did with the camera, the one-shot illusion, especially for a war film. When I first heard about that, my mind was blown already. And then, of course, when I walked out of the film, that remained constant. So there's no way Roger Deakins doesn't take home his second Oscar for 1917. Best Original Song, I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away from Toy Story 4. I'm Gonna Love Me Again from Rocket Man. I'm Standing With You from Breakthrough. Into the Unknown from Frozen 2. And Stand Up from Harriet. I feel like this is one of the harder categories to predict, especially this year. I'm Gonna Love Me Again won the Golden Globe. That's really the only precursor I have for what's going to win here, so I'm just going to go with I'm Gonna Love Me Again for Rocket Man. I feel like that can be kind of like, making up for not nominating the film in other categories, because I feel like there are other spots where the film should have been nominated, and it just seemed to get snubbed all across the board. So I feel like they're going to give this as kind of like, oh, we're sorry, here, take this one. For original score, the nominees are Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. The scores here that stand out the most to me, of course, are Joker, Marriage Story, and 1917. A lot of great work in those in particular. Joker won the Golden Globe, but I just feel like the score for 1917 added just a bit more to the film than the score for Joker did. Again, not bashing the score for Joker at all or how they use the music, but I just feel like 1917 it stood out more to me in terms of how it contributed to the rest of the film. So my predicted winner for original score is going to be 1917. Best international film, they've just renamed it. It used to be foreign language film. Based on the very, very limited knowledge that I know, nominees are Corpus Christi from Poland, Honeyland from North Macedonia, Les Miserables from France, Pain and Glory from Spain, and Parasite from South Korea. Now, looking at these nominees, there's only one that's also a Best Picture nominee, and that's Parasite. So if they nominate this one here, and also in Best Picture, I can't possibly imagine what's going to win this one. So this is kind of like with Up and Toy Story 3 being nominated for both Best Animated Feature and Best Picture. Like, did anyone really think that any of the other nominees were going to win an animated feature when you have a Best Picture nominee in that same category for basically what's saying, like, oh, the best film in that medium? So, of course, Up and Toy Story 3 won. So I think this is a similar case here. So Parasite, there's no way Parasite doesn't win Best International Film, and it was a wonderful film. So it definitely deserves to, at least in comparison to Pain and Glory. Animated feature: How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, I Lost My Body, Klaus, Missing Link, and Toy Story 4. I feel like based on the buzz that I'm hearing about Missing Link, it was one of the films that I just did not get to see this year. I kind of regret it. But based on what I'm hearing about this film, it could kind of be a dark horse. If there is a surprise on Oscar night, then I feel like this is going to be the one that could possibly sneak up there, but my gut is still on Toy Story 4. Like I said earlier in the show, this is a sequel that we didn't know that we wanted and ended up adding just a lot more to the franchise than I originally thought. So my particular winner for Best Animated Feature is Toy Story 4. Alright, so now we're getting into the more major categories, starting off with Best Supporting Actress. The nominees are Kathy Bates and Richard Jewell for playing Barbara Jewell, Laura Dern in Marriage Story for playing Nora Fanshawe, Scarlett Johansson in Jojo Rabbit for playing Rosie Betzler, Florence Pugh in Little Women for playing Amy March, and Margot Robbie in Bombshell for playing Kayla Pospisil. Hope I'm saying her name right. Laura Dern has seemed to be winning just every other major award this circuit. So my predicted winner is going to be Laura Dern in Marriage Story. She's been around a long time. She was terrific in the film. So I think the win here definitely makes a lot of sense. Best Supporting Actor, the nominees are Tom Hanks in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood for playing Fred Rogers, Anthony Hopkins in The Two Popes for playing Pope Benedict XVI, Al Pacino in The Irishman for playing Jimmy Hoffa, Joe Pesci in The Irishman for playing Russell Buffalino, and Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for playing Cliff Booth. As much as I love Joe Pesci in The Irishman, I'd love to see him win. Again, Brad Pitt is the same case as Laura Dern. He's been winning almost every single major award precursor before the Oscars. So I'd be very surprised that if he doesn't win Best Supporting Actor for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Best Actress, the nominees are Cynthia Erivo in Harriet for playing Harriet Tubman, Scarlett Johansson in Marriage Story for playing Nicole Barber, Saoirse Ronan in Little Women for playing Joe Marsh, Charlize Theron in Bombshell for playing Megyn Kelly, and Renee Zellweger in Judy for playing Judy Garland. Again, same case as the other two acting categories. Renee Zellweger's been winning just about every single award precursor. So I'm going to go with my predicted winner being Renee Zellweger in Judy. Best Actor, Antonio Banderas in Pain and Glory for playing Salvador Mayo, Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for playing Rick Dalton, Adam Driver in Marriage Story for playing Charlie Barber, Joaquin Phoenix in Joker for playing Arthur Fleck / Joker, and Jonathan Pryce in The Two Popes for playing Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio, otherwise known as Pope Francis. Again, Joaquin Phoenix has been taking every single award across the cycle, so I'd be very surprised if he doesn't win. Something I'm noticing with the acting categories this year, these four categories, they seem to be just very, very predictable in terms of who's going to win. So Joaquin Phoenix I'd be very surprised if he doesn't win. Moving on to the writing categories. Nominees are The Irishman, Steven Zaillian, Jojo Rabbit, Taika Waititi, Joker, Todd Phillips and Scott Silver, Little Women, Greta Gerwig, and The Two Popes, Anthony McCartan. Now, those first four nominees, for the longest time, I could have seen any one of them winning up until pretty recently. The Two Popes, as well written as it was, I feel like it was that kind of nominee that just barely slipped in there. But since Jojo Rabbit won the Writers Guild Award for Best Adapted Screenplay, that's usually one of the best predictors as to what's going to win the Oscar. That was the one that I think put it out in front of the other three nominees that I mentioned. So Jojo Rabbit, I think, is going to take Best Adapted Screenplay. So Korg is going to not only an Oscar nominee, but I think he's going to be an Oscar winner as of Sunday night. Best Original Screenplay, the nominees are Knives Out, Rian Johnson, Marriage Story, Noah Baumbach, 1917, Sam Mendes and Christy Wilson Cairns, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino, and Parasite, Bong Joon-ho and Han Jin-won. Now, this race seems to be between Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Parasite, and then, of course, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood won the Golden Globe for Best Screenplay. It has the whole, again, Hollywood nostalgia factor behind it, has a Quentin Tarantino factor behind it. He's won this category. He's won awards in this category twice before. But I feel like Parasite, there's like a sneaking momentum, there's a sneaking buzz behind the film. And just, again, with all the social themes that it addresses, with the fact that it wasn't as divisive as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, with the fact that there seems to be a lot more going on in this particular story, and is weaved together in a more efficient fashion than I feel Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was. Again, not necessarily bashing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but because the extra fluff that movie had didn't bother me at all. But I just feel like, Parasite, with all that it has going on, it's much more streamlined. The tension throughout the entire film is just nerve-wracking to say the least. There's so much going on. So my predicted winner for Best Original Screenplay is going to be Parasite, and I think it's going to be a worthy win. This is a great set of nominees for this particular category, but I think Parasite's going to come out on top, and I think it deserves to. Now, Best Director. This is another very, very strong set. The nominees are Martin Scorsese for The Irishman, Todd Phillips for Joker, Sam Mendes for 1917, Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Bong Joon-ho for Parasite. Like I said, very, very tough race. A lot of high caliber talent, a lot of high caliber names. I could possibly see Bong Joon-ho again sneaking up to possibly win Best Director. I don't think that's going to happen because if you look at the ambition that went into the production of 1917, I'm going to be very surprised if Sam Mendes doesn't win his second Best Director award for 1917. Like I said, there's just so much going on in terms of the production and everything that the film tried to accomplish on both a filmmaking and storytelling front. And I don't think that wouldn't have been nearly as apparent if it weren't for the touch of Sam Mendes. So I'm going to be very surprised if Sam Mendes doesn't win in this particular category. He's also another one that's been winning a lot of the particular awards leading up to the Oscars. He won the Directors Guild of America Award. He won the Golden Globe. So I'm going to be very surprised if Sam Mendes doesn't take Best Director. Okay, now, Best Picture. The one that everyone waits for. The nominees are Ford v. Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. Now, again, this is another very, very strong set, and like I said before, this has a lot in part to do with the fact that 2019 was just a fantastic year for movies all around. Now, I think the race has come to between 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. Like I said, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, mainly because, and I say it again, that Hollywood nostalgia that I'm sure a lot of Academy members are like being manipulated by. Then you go to Parasite, which, like I said before, has this quiet momentum behind it, and I feel like with the fact that it's the first South Korean film to ever not only be nominated for Best International Film, or formerly known as Foreign Language Film, but also the first Best Picture nominee to be from South Korea. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of people, at least in the Academy, that want to go with this film that is centered on, Asian characters. They're going to go with that whole identity politics sort of route. But if it's not this film, then I think 1917 is the other big front runner. Because again, it won the Producers Guild of America Award, and that's usually, again, like the more accurate precursor as to what's actually going to win Best Picture. Now, since between 1917 and Parasite, since Parasite is more than likely going to win Best International Film, I feel like the Academy is more than likely going to use that as like a consolation prize for 1917 taking Best Picture. This happened last year with Roma versus Green Book. I was so confident that Roma was going to win Best Picture out of all the nominees for that particular year. I think it deserved to win Best Picture the most, but it ended up winning directing, cinematography, and foreign language film, and not Best Picture. Best Picture went to Green Book, and I think that was like, okay, we'll give this one international film, we'll give this one foreign language film, and we'll give Green Book Best Picture. So I think that's exactly what's going to happen here between 1917 and Parasite. So I think 1917 is going to be the Best Picture winner. Now again, this is, even though 1917 wasn't my number one film of 2019, this film winning Best Picture still makes sense to me because it's still an incredible film. This one coming out in front of a lot of other really, really just flat out amazing films. I think that says a lot. 1917 I think is going to end up being the big winner for the Academy Awards. I think it's going to be a very interesting night for a number of reasons. And just like that, that's all I got for you today on Real Talk. Please do me a solid and subscribe to the YouTube channel that I made dedicated for this particular show. The content on the channel seems to be just a little out of order because it all, of course, is dependent on like when I actually uploaded the stuff from my original channel to now this new channel. So please subscribe to that so you could get the newest updates and notifications for everything having to do with the show. Again, please follow the official Instagram Instagram profile that I have for the show. Same with Facebook. The usernames and taglines should be in the description for this particular podcast, no matter what platform you just happen to be watching it on. I'm trying to get it onto more and more streaming outlets like Spotify and iTunes. That's all been a work in progress as well. I've been really busy. So, yeah, just like that, that's been Real Talk, and I'm Joe Acierno. I'll see you next time.